increase on the growing population policy. "23 years later, the Qing imperial court reformed the taxation system yet again, adopting a policy known as allocating the capitation tax to the land. The core of this policy was to totally abolish the previous tax collection policy and instead collect tax according to the land one owned. This was a major change to the system of taxation in China.
这个政策的话，实际上是对普通百姓的话，特别是对贫穷百姓、地多地少的百姓有特别大的好处，而对富啊占有大量土地的地主来说呢，他们付出的就更多一些。所以当时说这个政策有利于穷人而不利于富人。这一政策的产生呢，这一政策就事实上宣布了中国持续上千年的 人口税的废除和终结。
At this time, farmers near Yuzhuan Hill on the outskirts of Beijing and in the vicinity of Tianjin began to grow an early variety of rice on a trial basis, and the area of rice paddies increased year by year. By the middle of the reign of Emperor Qianlong, the area of farmland cultivated in rice around the two cities of Beijing and Tianjin and in Hebei province exceeded 660,000 hectares. The rice harvest had become an important source of national revenue, and dependence on grain from South China had been greatly reduced. During this period, the land use rate and national grain output was raised considerably. The amount of arable land was also expanded, and the unit output of grain was higher. The total grain output exceeded that of any period in Chinese history, and more grain made it possible for the population to grow. By the middle of the reign of Emperor Qianlong, the Chinese population exceeded 200 million, and by the later years of Emperor Qianlong's reign, it exceeded 300 million, accounting for 1/3 of the world's total population. As well as this, China's total output value accounted for 1/3 of the world total. China had become the most populated nation and the strongest economy in the world. The Qing imperial court brought the floods under control and encouraged agricultural production, laying a solid foundation for economic construction and the ideological unification of the nation's various ethnic groups to ensure social stability. This period of the Qing Dynasty is referred to by historians as the prosperous age of Kangxi and Qianlong.
它是一个集大成的时代，就是说政治、经济、文化都是超越了 以前隔代的一个时代，你看经济上，它的应该达到了前所未有的发展的程度。它的那个乾隆时期，中国到19世纪初，中国的经济体啊，中国这个经济体啊，仍然比西方、比英国同时期的还要大，这是一个很了不起的一个辉煌。
Under Emperor Qianlong, China became the most populous country with the strongest economy in the world. The economic prosperity made it possible for folk culture to develop, and various forms of local opera began to thrive across the nation.
As the population grew, the economy prospered and more cities were built, and urban culture became richer. During the reign of Emperor Qianlong, urban culture, as represented by entertainment businesses, reached an unprecedented high. In the process, the creative power of folk culture released itself, and this can be seen in the various forms of local opera that began to thrive on stage across the nation. Such regional cultural prosperity had never been seen in previous times.
清朝的前期，在中国文化史或艺术史上一件最大的事件，一件最具革命色彩的事件，就是地方戏的崛起。之后，地方戏崛起之后，整个中国大地、中华大地，从南到北，从东到西，300-400种声腔， 它开始汇聚、碰撞、融合。那时候有2个根据地，一个是北京，一个是扬州。北京和扬州作为2个重镇，就艺术史融合碰撞的重镇，最终在北京形成了个京剧。
In 1790, the San Qing troupe, a local opera troupe renowned in areas south of the Yangtze River, came to Beijing to perform. And after that, opera culture from south of the Yangtze River began to integrate with that of the north. This integration gave birth to a new opera form, Peking opera. Peking opera assimilated all the original elements of Chinese culture carried down over more than 2,500 years through the Zhou, Qin, Han, Tang, Song, Yuan and Ming dynasties. All previously existing poetry, song, dance and music forms from those eras can be found in Peking opera. Peking opera is the culmination of and cream of Chinese culture and art. It has both the collective memory of ancient Chinese culture and the refreshing innovations of modern culture. Peking opera was the result of the fusion of various local opera forms. It was local and national because it contained the cultural elements from both the south and the north. Opera fans from various regions around China can feel close to Peking opera due to its roots, while at the same time they can feel the refreshing air that runs through it thanks to the opera's unique, innovative concepts. Peking opera came forth during an era when the ancient farming civilization of China reached its summit. The appearance of Peking opera was the voice of an era at a time when the country was prosperous and the people lived in peace.
京剧的诞生是整个中华民族，应该是民族的创新能力的一种结果。京剧诞生之前，任何人都没有预料到。当然呢，艺术史的规律和文化史的规律，很可能指向，冥冥之中指向了有一种东西，就京剧的诞生。但是作为个人，没有预料到。除了康雍乾时期的所谓盛世，还有一种我觉得文化开放政策。
18 years before an opera troupe from Anhui province came to perform in Beijing, Tanyi Ge, a famous private library in the region south of the Yangtze River, sent a collection of rare books to Beijing as it had been commanded to. In 1743, the Qing imperial court built Siku Chuanshu Studio for the compilation of a great work to be entitled Complete Library of the Four Treasures. It then began to solicit books from all over the country, and Tanyi Ge Library was the first to deliver its rare books to Beijing. Tanyi Ge, a private family library, had rare books that had been collected through 8 generations, and it presented 638 of its rarest books to the imperial court. In order to ensure that the complete library of the Four Treasures would be comprehensive, the nationwide book search continued for 7 years. The gigantic collection that resulted includes meticulously selected books presented by the people, books kept in the imperial palace, and those listed in the Great Encyclopedia of Yongle of the Ming Dynasty. It consists of 79,337 volumes with 770 million Chinese characters. It took 9 years to complete. The number of scholars credited with being involved in its compilation comes to more than 3,600, and more than 3,800 scribes had to be employed. The complete library of the Four Treasures was so huge it could not at the time be printed by press, and so several thousand people were engaged to make 7 handwritten copies, each of which was kept in a different place. This largest of all collections of books from ancient China includes all the main classical works written prior to the reign of Emperor Qianlong. It is known in today's academic circles as the Great Wall of Chinese Culture and the Pyramid of Oriental Culture. In the early 21st century, the Chinese government printed 5 sets of the complete library of the Four Treasures. Each set weighs 1.5 tons. It took more than 600 workers 1 year and 8 months to produce them. 5,000-year-old history of the Chinese civilization is a record of one innovation after another. It is like a piece of pure gold refined in the fire of primeval chaos, an exquisite piece of jade polished by the harsh weather through eons of time, and a bright pearl of the Chinese nation presented to the crown of the world's civilization. This culture that lit up the Dark Ages leads the Chinese nation to grow larger and stronger with each passing day. As history moves forward, it presents us with challenges, and these challenges have inspired the children of the civilization of the Yellow River to work harder, acquire more knowledge, tap more of their wisdom, and strengthen their spirit of self-reliance and innovation. The Chinese nation has a cultural tradition of tolerating foreign elements and placing emphasis on harmony. This toleration of elements from outside gave birth to a great and broad nation ready to embrace variety, and it created a brilliant civilization that grows ever stronger. The reverence of social harmony has brought forth a tradition in the Chinese nation of promoting peace and stable development. When it comes to acquiring new knowledge, the Chinese nation is endowed with a fine spirit of self-reliance and self-support, and it is this spirit that has enabled the Chinese nation to exist and to grow.
The water conservancy projects, the more efficient approach to farming, and the enlightened ethnic policies, these were key elements in the economic development achieved by the Qing government. Moreover, the adoption of Confucian principles as ideological guidelines unified the national culture and consolidated society. Well, the golden age of Qing brings us to the end of our major series about Chinese civilization, in which we've seen how, throughout 5,000 years of history, China has been at the forefront of innovation and integration. And thank you for staying with us on today's New Frontiers. I'm Ji Xiaojun from CCTV International. Bye for now.